Good evening. You're now watching the main news on HKIBC. I'm Vincent Chan, and here's a look at tonight's top stories. Doors are sent flying on an MTR train after a front carriage derails at Yau Ma Tei station. The Democratic Party barely retains control of the U.S. Senate after a crucial win in Nevada. And at least 2 pilots are killed after a plane crash during an air show in Dallas. Services for the MTR's Chunwan line were partially suspended for most of the day after a train derailed as it entered Yau Ma Tei station this morning, with doors flying off from the carriage. The company denied putting passengers at risk after many were told to evacuate by walking on the tracks. Janice Low reports.
Early morning commuters on the MTR were in for a nasty surprise. A central-bound train on the Chunwan line came to a sudden halt as it approached Yau Ma Tei station at around 9:30 a.m. 2 pairs of doors from the front carriage were ripped off, likely after making contact with the platform screen doors. 2 hours after the accident, the railway operator confirmed that the bogie, the wheel set underneath the carriage, had derailed. Before the MTR could find answers for the latest mishap, it already courted more controversy over the way it dealt with the emergency. Of 750 passengers who had to be evacuated, 150 were made to walk along the tracks from Yau Ma Tei to Mong Kok Station, a distance of roughly 600 meters. 2 passengers suffered minor injuries during the process, including a 78-year-old woman. But the MTR denied putting passengers at risk.
We have standard derailment procedures, meaning that passengers could take different routes to evacuate. Our preferred routes, of course, is to through the doors onto the platform. That is the fastest and safest. But using the derailment ramp going down to the track, it's also a safe egress or safe evacuation process. So in this particular case, both of the methods have been deployed.
More than a dozen engineers raced to remove the carriage and carry out emergency repairs ahead of the morning rush tomorrow. But CAM admitted it was unable to provide an estimate how long the repairs would take. Services between Jordan and Lai King on the Chunwan line were suspended for most of the day, causing major disruptions to people's travel plans. This lady who planned to go to Meifu said she had no idea what happened after her train stopped at Chengyi for a long time. There were also long queues for free shuttle buses. Janice Low, HKIBC.
A lawmaker who was once an MTR station manager found it unacceptable that passengers had to walk on the tracks where trains from another line were running in close proximity. Janice Low again.
Lawmaker Gary Zhang, who was once an MTR station manager, refused to accept the explanation from the management. He said it was super dangerous that many passengers were told to evacuate through the tracks.
It's only when there is a life-threatening situation, like the train is on fire or some very extreme situation is happening inside the train, then we should use these last resorts to evacuate passengers. According to the feedback from those affected passengers, when they were working towards the Mong Kok station, they actually saw a running train passing by, and that's very, very risky. It's not acceptable.
The engineer believed human error was an unlikely cause for the derailment.
I think it's more likely related to either the track itself or the train colliding with some external objects. Because in MTR checking system, the trains will be thoroughly checked before deployed for service every day, and it's only in the early mornings.
This marked the second time in less than a year that train doors were detached from an MTR train. A door on an Island Line train was also ripped off at Causeway Bay Station during the evening rush last December. A loose billboard was blamed for that accident. Janice Low, HKIBC.
Hong Kong saw an additional 6,575 COVID cases today. Among them, 467 were imported cases. There were also 9 more people who died with the virus. The young and old remain the most vulnerable, with 17 more residents of elderly and care homes contracting COVID. 4 schools have also been asked to suspend some of their classes for 7 days, as clusters were found there as well. Leaders from around the world met on the final day of an annual summit of the Association of Southeast Asian Nations in Cambodia's capital, Phnom Penh. Topping the agenda were plans to counter the worsening violence in military-ruled Myanmar, regional trade partnerships, and Sino-US tensions. Leaders from outside the ASEAN bloc, including Chinese Prime Minister Li Keqiang, Russian Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov, and U.S. President Joe Biden were also in attendance. Biden said he was confident going into the highly anticipated meeting with President Xi Jinping at the G20 summit in Bali on Tuesday. Cambodia then handed over the ASEAN chairmanship to Indonesian President Joko Widodo. Over in the U.S., with only a few votes left to count, the Democrats have managed to retain control of the Senate after a crucial win in Nevada. They have also narrowed the gap to shrink their distance with the Republicans in the House. Wenna Wong reports.
Nevada's incumbent, Senator Catherine Cortez Masto, became the one to seal the deal for the Democrats when she emerged victorious, albeit by a razor-thin margin. With 50 seats now in the bag, plus Vice President Kamala Harris's tiebreak, the Democrats bucked earlier estimates that it would fail to retain Senate control.
I'm incredibly pleased by the turnout, and I think it's a reflection of the quality of our candidates, and they're all running on the same program. There wasn't anybody who wasn't running on what we did. They're all sticking with it. And so I feel good, and I'm looking forward to the next couple of years.
Earlier, another crucial Democratic victory was made in Arizona, where Mark Kelly won his bid for re-election in the crucial swing state. His opponent, venture capitalist Blake Masters, was endorsed by former President Donald Trump, who made unfounded claims of voter fraud in Maricopa County. Trump had taken aim at the same county in 2020, when he tried to argue the presidential election was stolen from him.
Since 2020, we've gone through a lot here. This board was sort of placed in the national spotlight as it related to certifying the election results in 2020, and that was just a constant flow of misinformation that we became adept at responding to. We began to understand the importance of responding to that misinformation accurately and quickly.
The Republicans, meanwhile, have confirmed 49 places for now. Things remain up in the air in Georgia, where a runoff election between Herschel Walker and Raphael Warnock will be held next month. As for the House, the gap between both parties dramatically narrowed over the past 24 hours. But the Republicans are still expected to take control of the chamber. Wenna Wong, HKIBC.
At least 2 people were killed when 2 vintage military planes collided mid-air during an air show in the U.S. city of Dallas. The full list of casualties has yet been released as authorities try to piece together the tragedy. Azam Khan reports.
Thousands were left shocked as the planes collided mid-air and ended in a ball of fire on the ground. Videos captured by witnesses appear to show the smaller plane hitting the back of another aircraft as it made a turn. Officials wouldn't say who or how many were on board the vintage military planes, a Boeing B-17 Flying Fortress bomber and a Bell P-63 King Cobra fighter. But Hank Coates, president of the company which owned the aircraft and organized the show, did give some hints.
The B-17 normally has a crew of 4 to 5. That was what was on the aircraft. And the P-63 is a single piloted fighter type aircraft. There was an incident. It is being investigated by the FAA right now.
A union for American Airlines pilots later confirmed that 2 of its former members were killed on board the B-17. Both were retired pilots. Dallas Mayor Eric Johnson said there were no reports of injuries to spectators and others on the ground. The air show was part of celebrations for the annual Veterans Day. It drew crowds of around 4,000 on Saturday, after the events on Friday were scrapped due to bad weather. Azam Khan, HKIBC.
Ukraine's foreign minister expressed gratitude as he met his U.S. counterpart Antony Blinken at the ASEAN summit. But officials in the liberated city of Kherson warned that it would be some time before residents can start leading normal lives again. Raymond Yang reports.
Хлопці, ви знаєте, що ви самі бомбезні в цьому світі.
Just a day after Kherson was liberated, locals couldn't wait to remove Russian propaganda materials from the public site. A giant poster which read Kherson, a Russian city, was torn down by teenagers, while passers-by cheered on. There were jubilant scenes everywhere at the port city. Andrei Kovalchuk, the Ukrainian commander in the southern front, was given a hero's welcome as he arrived at the city center. At the ASEAN summit in Cambodia, Ukraine's foreign minister expressed gratitude to its biggest ally.
I want the people of America and Biden administration to know that when the residents of the Kherson region and the city of Kherson welcome Ukrainian soldiers with the tears of joy, these are also the tears of gratitude to all those in the United States and to the people of America who have helped us to force Russia to retreat.
U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken pledged his support for the war-torn nation. But Kherson officials warned that the war was far from over. The mayor's office confirmed that the city still lacked running water, food, and medicines after months of warfare. And a video clip from Russian state television painted a very different picture from those on social media. It showed residents scurrying for shelter after shells landed nearby. When asked who was behind the attack, a woman responded, "Ukraine, everyone knows that." It could also take months to repair damaged infrastructure. A strategic road crossing linking the region to the Russian-controlled eastern bank of the Dnipro River has collapsed. There are conflicting accounts as to who was responsible for the bombing of the Antonivsky Bridge. Raymond Yang, HKIBC.
A man who lived at Paris airport for nearly 2 decades has passed away. For 18 years since 1988, Miran Karimi Nasseri had called Terminal 1 of Charles de Gaulle Airport his home. The Iranian was initially stuck in legal limbo after he did not have the necessary papers to enter France. He was eventually granted residency, but chose to remain at the airport until he was hospitalized in 2006. His unusual story caught the media's attention and inspired the Tom Hanks movie, The Terminal. Nasseri suffered a heart attack yesterday and could not be resuscitated. He was 76. Onto the weather now, becoming cloudy tomorrow with poor visibility in some areas. Temperatures will range between 23 and 26 degrees. Sunny periods on Tuesday and a few rain patches on Wednesday. Now let's take a look at the weather around the world. That's our main news for Sunday night. Join us for more news at 11. I'm Vincent Chan. Thanks for watching. Good night.